as Demi Moore are now caught up in a major scandal involving Diddy, and things are getting intense. Rumors are swirling that Ashton Kutcher could soon be called to testify in Diddy's upcoming federal trial. This shocking info was leaked by Fox News, and it's turning heads everywhere. The twists and turns in this story are only getting started, and people are eager to find out what comes next. Stay tuned, because this is one drama you won't want to miss.
You got Ashton Kutcher in love with Mila Kunis on that 70s show. Then they break up for absolutely no reason after he starts hanging out with Diddy. Then he marries Demi Moore, who drained him of all the adrenochrome she can, and apparently he replenished himself by doing inappropriate things with their daughters. I'm glad. I'm sure you're glad. Like Bruce Willis has dementia right now.
Demi Moore has shared a heartbreaking story about the abuse she suffered as a child at the hands of her mother. According to Demi, her mother even sold her to a man for $500, leaving her deeply scarred. This painful experience destroyed her confidence and sent her down a dark road, where she herself became an abuser. What's even more shocking is that despite everything she went through, Demi ended up forming a friendship with Diddy, a man many in the industry knew had connections to trafficking. It's a chilling reminder of how trauma can shape people in unexpected ways, and how the dark side of fame often goes unnoticed. In her memoir, Demi Moore disclosed that she had been sexually raped when she was 15 years old. She said that her mother had let the abuser live in their house. Today, Dee discussed this topic more with Howard Stern on his Sirius XM radio program. "You claim that you pushed it away because you don't need it, and because I felt that I was to blame for acting in such a provocative and mature manner, as if I truly knew a lot and never really considered myself to be a child. And so I never looked at it as correct. In all honesty, I was extremely embarrassed by it. I believe that the shame I carried from the rape prevented me from feeling comfortable expressing my sexuality." It reminds me of our conversation in which she explained that she wrote this book to share her story and hope that it would empower other young women. She also talked about a lot of other things with Howard Stern and mentioned that she tried out for Top Gun but obviously didn't get the part. She also mentioned that she would later work with Tom Cruise as a co-star in A Few Good Men. Hollywood is a repulsive environment where parents neglect their children in favor of fame and a better profession instead of protecting them. Usher Demi Moore. As a nervous teenager, she is taken to bars by her mother so that men will notice them. She is 15 years old when she returns home one night, and an older man they know is in the apartment with the key. She writes, "It was rape and a devastating betrayal revealed by the man's cruel question. How does it feel to be hoarded by your mother for $500? Do you believe she sold you? I don't think it was a straightforward transaction, but she still gave him the access." Justin Bieber and even Davy Chase were abused in Hollywood, and it is said that their parents knew this was happening. In some cases, parents even gave their kids to these abused so they could be near the biggest names in the industry. Place Me in Danger, Demi Moore was captured on camera having improper relationships with children, despite being married to Freddie Moore at the time. A newly discovered video of Demi Moore kissing her old General Hospital co-star Philip Tanzini has garnered notice. Okay, one more time. Why do you think everyone has come out? I don't know. Maybe it's because I love them all and I hope they love me. We do love him. And I love them. If you think it's just for the publicity, you're completely crazy, because he's one of my favorite people and has been working on this for almost a month and a half. What's your role? You're taking my seat? My name is Philip Tanzini, and I play Jeremy. I'm going to see number 2 right now because I adore Philly, and he's the only one I love. I've already completed your interview, so I'm looking for love, but that's all right. We have our new plot in the works. I would want to wish Philip a happy birthday, as I adore him, and he has been one of my favorite persons for the past 3 weeks, despite having never had any contact with him or even knowing what his allowed connections were. He probably doesn't because he has a reputation for being a dirty player. Fantastic. In a recent episode of the PBD podcast, Fox News host Jesse Waters claimed that Ashton Kutcher, the ex-husband of Diddy Moore, is allegedly prepared to expose everyone connected to Diddy, including his ex-wife. He said that Fox News had received reliable information that Ashton Kutcher was preparing to testify against Diddy and had consented to work with the federal government. Ashton is reportedly concerned about going to prison after being discovered on Diddy's videos.
Used for blackmail material. They'd bring in these people. A lot of these people were also aspiring young artists in the music industry. And then these parties were sponsored by Motown Records CEO, Universal Records CEO. This goes all the way to the top. And so you get these people in compromising situations. The drinks were laced, their videotapes were hot, And then at the end of the day, you wake up the next morning, what did I do? And then they have compromising material on you. And then they can guide your career. They could kill your career, but they got you. And it wasn't just people in the music business. As you said, there were athletes, there were celebrities, there were politicians, people from the royal family. And we were also told by the former bodyguard that Diddy was an FBI informant. Whoa. So he was a snitch and was feeding information to the feds. And we don't know what that means. We haven't been able to confirm it, but even Little Rod said it's not just like Epstein. It could be worse than Jeffrey Epstein.
I've been on FBI raids where I've witnessed things that no one should ever see. I've seen video footage of a child my age being raped by an American sex tourist in Cambodia. The child was so conditioned by her surroundings that she believed she was playing, but for so many, the right to pursue happiness is taken away. It's raped, abused, taken by force, fraud, or coercion, and sold for the fleeting happiness of another. What? Okay, I've got a lot I can't tell, so our connection was pretty strange at one point. So it began over punked because he said, yo, you can't punk me. And I said, I don't want to tell you everyone's on the table, to which he replied, not me, I'm off the table, which sparked our chat. We quickly became friends and now spend our time together watching football. One of the celebrities who might go to prison if Diddy is found guilty is Demi Moore. As far as Jay-Z is concerned, this could go one of two ways. Either it will be a one-off case that he has to defend, or it could be a Me Too scenario where other victims come forward, as we saw with Diddy. Federal prosecutor Nima Rahmani stated that Jay-Z is only the first person to be sued in connection with Diddy, and in federal cases of this magnitude, it's only a matter of time before other names get involved as well as Cassie Ventura. The next few days and weeks will be very telling, and Tony Busby claims to have more than 100 victims, possibly as many as 300. It will be interesting to see if any of them are named Jay-Z and Nima. If such a well-known name as Jay-Z has surfaced, do you think we can expect more celebrity names to be linked to these lawsuits? This may be the first time that a celebrity, Domino, and Jay-Z has been unmasked as Celebrity A, but let's not forget that there is a Celebrity B in that same lawsuit who allegedly witnessed the sexual assault of the female celebrity. And someone appeared on CNN earlier this week claiming that another celebrity also witnessed his sexual assault. As you said, this has reached the court of public opinion. It's good to have your real legal guidance on this one, Naron. Thank you very much for joining us. Another name that has surfaced in relation to Diddy is Jennifer Lopez. Directly Cardello Smith is a victim who alleges that Diddy sexually assaulted him in 1997 during a party at a Holiday Inn in Detroit, where Cardello Smith worked as a bartender. Despite being aware of what had transpired with Cardello, G-Lo was shown the video that Diddy had captured of the alleged sexual assault. G-Lo didn't go to the authorities or try to help him in any way. But going back to Cardello Smith's filing his notice, says that Jennifer Lynn Lopez, aka J-Lo, aka Jenny from the Block, quote, will be called as a material witness and expert to Sean Combs' viewing, possession, and distribution of his sexual assault upon the plaintiff in 1997, and the orders of defendant Sean Combs forcing Jennifer Lopez to remain silent about the videotaped sexual assault of plaintiff by defendant. Plaintiff states that the material witness, Jennifer Lopez, also known as J-Lo and Jenny from the Block, was engaged in a relationship with the defendant Sean Combs during 1999 and 2001, and that the sexual assault of the plaintiff was recorded, distributed, and held by the defendant at his New York residence and recording studio. And during the relationship with Jennifer Lopez, she was made privy to this video that was taken by Sean Combs and his employee Kirk Burrows. J-Lo has known this video existed and was in existence and took no action to make it known to anyone in law enforcement, and that she was even questioned by New York police detective Derek Palmer about this matter, and that the report will show that her answers to this tape was and still remains a resounding yes to its existence and beyond. As I noted, Diddy's legal team has been asking for the whole case to be thrown out, so Cardello Smith writes that he wants to summon Officer Derek Palmer as a witness because he claims Palmer is the one who questioned Lopez, and he thinks Palmer would have information that will assist his case. There's a ton of material to go through, but I'd like to share some of the highlights first. Cardello Smith submitted a massive response to that request that was more than 200 pages long, with probably half of it being just plain copies of case law that seemed to support his arguments word for word. It's like a legal textbook. Cardell Smith also claims and alleges that Combs was violent towards his loved ones at times. Cardell Smith addresses alleged threats against his family. Other times, he says, Combs actually caused serious injuries to his brother. His response reads, defense used threats of murder to force the plaintiff to not bring the case to any court of law enforcement until the homes of the defendant were raided by Homeland Security, that the plaintiff knew it was a safe time to bring the case, and that is why we are here at this juncture. And Cardell Smith argued that fear for his own safety and the safety of his family is one of the main reasons that he waited so long to report the alleged rape, and says that that reason alone should override any issue with the statute of limitations that these claims might be otherwise be time-barred. And he also argues that while he's been in prison, fellow inmates and prison guards have threatened him on behalf of Sean Combs. 3 other men have also come forward with stories that match the same pattern of abuse Diddy is now well known for, allegedly inviting one of these men to his parties where he was drugged and raped. The man asserts that Diddy's motivation was power rather than sexual attraction, and that Diddy drugged him to prevent him from fighting back. This is something we have seen in other cases as well. So why did you believe these cases and others that you were presented with? Well, the thing about abusers, especially serial sexual abusers, is that they follow a pattern, and you can tell what that pattern is. The facts of all of these cases were the same. The story began, middle, and ended, and boom, none of them knew one another. Did you have them coordinate stories? No. Do you think they had any contact with each other before they came to you? Absolutely not. And when you were talking to them, well, first, the ones that you didn't take, why not? Stories didn't make sense. Stories didn't fit the pattern. Stories were not credible. I mean, this is my 30th year as a lawyer. I can say I've tried over 100 cases, can assess whether somebody's story is credible, and if I don't believe it, I'm not going to put my name on a pleading. Decided, and in court I'm not doing that, and that's what I did with the 60 plus cases that I rejected. And this is not really your area of expertise. If people look you up, celebrity lawsuits are not really where you make your are of expertise. If people look you up, celebrity lawsuits are not really where you make your bones. Why this? Well, I was involved in the Weinstein litigation. I'm involved in the PUK litigation. I was involved in the Hayden litigation. Why do I do this? I do this because it's important. I think it's important for people to be heard and have their chance to get the power back, because sexual abuse and sexual assault are about one thing: taking power, humiliating and demeaning some person and a victim. It has nothing to do with sex. And so I think it's important to get the word out. I think it's important for men to feel, hey, look, I can come out and be heard. Just like a victim. It has nothing to do with sex. And so I think it's important to get the word out. I think it's important for men to feel, hey, look, I can come out and be heard, just like a woman could. And the defense that, look, they knew what they were getting into. These are regrets. They went there, they partied, and now they see a pocket. No, I don't think so. My CLI men, one was bisexual and the other ones were not. And they were going there, the client was bisexual and not using words, just smacking and trash. They don't butcher children because they might be gay. Another point was brought up. For doing inform him and being his step and fetch, for lack of a better word. And I think it was a power move. It was a clear power move, because this guy had the nerve to come to him and say, you owe me money. And so Diddy said, come on, to the Intercontinental Hotel. He gives him the drug, knocks him out, sodomizes him, and I won't use the term that my client used, but I will. He said he tried to turn me into his B word. And I think it was a clear power move on each and every occasion. I think the ones that took place in the park, that wasn't party. My client met him at a nightclub in the city here with a music producer he didn't think he was getting into, that the man who was raped in the homes, he thought he was going to a white party. Who wouldn't want to go to a white party? I would have gone to a white party back in the day. I wouldn't go now. But they went there innocently, and this is what happened to them. I never attended, but thank you very much for the app. We'll keep an eye on the instances. One of the policemen that participated in the search for G-Dub, Diddy's home has also been made public, and it has been reported that the police believe Diddy is worse than Jeffrey Epstein. According to the officers, Diddy is dangerous to everyone around him, including these women at a party. You know, for years, P. Diddy's house was found to contain more than just baby oil and drugs. Diddy has received a complete clearance. He has actually established his own kingdom in which he sets the rules, and you must abide by them or face punishment. Every day, Diddy has been fired over the years for trying. Last March, he was charged with baseless accusations and burglaries in his home in which he sets the rules and you must abide by them or face punishment. But the truth hasn't been finalized yet, although they have charged this man with burglary and drugs. Diddy has been released from prison within the last month or two. And guess Laura, he is currently in a federal prison, facing his own fate for the first time in his life at the hands of someone else. I can assure you, Law, that I have handled federal cases, and that's not the setting you want to be in. He now has an overwhelming uphill struggle to fight these terrible allegations, since 90% of federal criminal indictments are bargained out, meaning a plea agreement is made, and 90% of the defendants who are left to go to trial lose, and 90% of the defendants who are left to go to trial lose. One of the DHS officers who participated in this raid on his Miami mansion described what he saw inside the house, saying that in my opinion, he's as bad as Epstein. These women are young, either barely legal or barely illegal. Brian, this sounds like he was a monster. Yeah, Laura, I will tell you that this indictment was very detailed, by the way. Two your viewers should know there were over 300 subpoenas served, over 50 witnesses interviewed. Why is that important? Because the federal prosecutors aren't going to be leveling an indictment like this unless they have ammunition and they have cause to bring it. And the core issue at this case, which the feds have to prove, which it's looking like they can, is that P. Diddy essentially controlled these women. That he threatened them with stopping the money that he was paying them, that he spiked their drinks with drugs that's been alleged in the indictment, and that he basically told them, I'm going to ruin your life unless you engage in these freak-offs. And that's really what the prosecutors got to prove. And if you got some victims coming forward to talk about that, you've got financial records that prove that travel itinerary, that proves that P. Diddy has very little defense. And I gotta tell you, Laura, if this guy wants to fight these charges, he's gonna have to step up and walk into a courtroom and talk about it. If he doesn't testify in this case, he is dead on arrival. Well, who else is on these tapes? I mean, will the tapes ever see the light of day? I mean, that's what everybody's talking about. Who else is there? It's like with the Epstein, his Pleasure Island. Who else? Who was there? What's the manifest? But Brian, chances 1 being least likely, 10 being most likely. Will we learn of other celebrities that were at these freak-offs? Yeah, I think you've got an 8 or a 9. A likelihood you're going to hear about it. Why? Because there are going to be more indictments coming down. Laura, that's an important point here. See, he's being charged with racketeering conspiracy. You're going to have, well, let's start on the inner circle. You're going to have former bodyguards. You're going to possibly have former musicians that he was with. You've got personal assistants that are going to be. They're already talking about this. Some of those are likely to be charged. And then guess what? If you've got some music mogul that are sending women over to these alleged freak-offs, then you've got some top people that are going to start crumbling too, because they're all part of what's called this criminal enterprise. Before her death, Kim Porter's ex-wife allegedly wrote a memoir detailing all of Diddy's crimes and discussing how Diddy was running the entire operation. Courtney Burgess, one of Kim Porter's friends, has turned the memoir and 8 of Diddy's tapes over to the FBI. Courtney is being subpoenaed in a federal criminal trial, and the tapes he presented have reportedly been played in front of a grand jury. Kim Porter gave Courtney these tapes because she knew her life was in jeopardy. The witnesses' statements describe what he claims to have seen on the tapes, so I questioned him about it. Following his grand jury testimony, the individual involved made an effort to provide the most accurate and thoughtful response possible, despite the significant restrictions placed on him. Among the 8 videos in question, all featured well-known celebrities, 2 of whom were female and 6 male. However, an essential question arose. Of these 8 famous individuals, how many appeared to be underage or on the cusp of being underage? Furthermore, how many of them seemed to be under the influence of alcohol or drugs during the incidents? Although the situation is speculative, it is crucial to acknowledge that the individual giving testimony was not in a position to conclusively identify the circumstances surrounding the state of the celebrities involved. He himself could not provide definitive proof or claim to know with certainty whether the allegations regarding their intoxication were accurate. However, to provide clarity, let's rephrase the question to ask how many of these 8 celebrities who were recorded engaging in intimate activities with Sean Combs appeared to be under the influence of drugs or alcohol. In this case, it was suggested that all 8 individuals featured in the recordings appeared to be intoxicated in some manner. Whether they were under the influence of alcohol, drugs, or some other form of inebriation, the general perception was that each of these celebrities seemed impaired. It is important to note that the testimony did not confirm these suspicions with certainty, but it was the impression left by the individual involved in the case. The next point of inquiry focused on whether any of these individuals could be considered victims of exploitation, or whether any were perpetrating the events. The testimony, based on the individual's observations, indicated that all 8 celebrities could be regarded as victims. The implication here was that each of them, potentially in a vulnerable or impaired state due to intoxication, might have been taken advantage of by Sean Combs. The notion of victimization was central to the testimony, suggesting that these individuals were not fully aware of what was happening to them due to their compromised mental state. However, the case is inherently complex, and questions of victimization are not always clear-cut. While the testimony suggested that all 8 were victims, it's possible that in a broader context, there may have been instances where individuals, whether consciously or subconsciously, participated in or contributed to the events. The nuanced nature of the situation raises questions about accountability, as it is unclear whether these celebrities were simply victims or if they might have, in some way, also contributed to the circumstances. Despite this ambiguity, it was clear from the individual's testimony that he believed all 8 celebrities to have been victimized in some form. This aligns with the broader context of the case, which emphasizes the power dynamics at play and the potential for exploitation when one party is under the influence and unaware of their actions. This also leads to an empirical claim that some groups of people felt sexually abused and rejected victims of abuse more clearly than others. As for the safety concerns raised by the case, the individual was also asked whether the client, presumably the individual accused of wrongdoing, feared for his safety if Diddy, another central figure in the case, were to be granted bond. The individual representing other victims who had sued Sean Combs, Diddy, and others in civil court expressed concern over the safety of his clients should bond be granted. He emphasized that the victims he represented were deeply apprehensive about their safety, fearing the potential repercussions of Diddy's release. Despite these fears, the individual was confident that the court would uphold its previous decision and not grant bond, citing faith in the legal process and the court's commitment to the previous ruling. In summary, the case involves complex questions of victimization, intoxication, and the safety of those involved. While the testimony presented some valuable insights into the potential exploitation of these celebrities, the nuances of the situation make it difficult to arrive at definitive conclusions. The ongoing legal process will likely continue to shed light on these issues with the hope that justice will ultimately prevail. No bond, I feel like the judge only gave this, let me think about it just to not make it as obvious, but I have all the confidence in the world and the federal court in the state of New York that they will remain keeping Diddy under no bond and that all of the victims in this case will be able to proceed sooner rather than later. Yeah, and you mentioned, you don't just represent this man, you represent other alleged victims too, and people involved. Have there been any threats made against any of your clients? There have been threats from people on the internet, but not from, at least what we don't know from Diddy to be directly. So my clients have, Mr. Burgess has received several death threats. My client, Mrs. Parham, has been receiving threats, but we don't know if they're just regular people from the internet or if they're actually people who were sent by Diddy. Do you have any idea where the threats are coming from? Have you done any investigation? Well, most of the investigation leads us to a lot of burner accounts on Instagram, and we're trying to now sift through, possibly working with law enforcement to try to get subpoenas to determine the IP addresses of where those threats were emanating. So, okay, interesting. We know that the cease and desist letter has now come. Has there been any other pressure of any kind that you or your clients have felt to stop talking in general? I feel that the gab order, when we talk about that, Mark, Edro. Anilo wrote about me specifically, and also all of the other PLS and the civil lawsuits to try to have all of us gag. There's pressure every day that us continuing to talk about this is putting not only our lives in jeopardy, but could be potentially used against us in a gag order. A 38-year-old mother from Alabama has filed a lawsuit against Diddy and Jay-Z, claiming that Diddy ripped her and Jay-Z at an after party after the 2000 MTV Video Music Awards in New York City. You should always advocate for yourself and be a voice for yourself. You should never let what somebody else did run your life. Diddy had a habit of abusing people and wanting to make them feel humiliated in the early 2000s. It was alleged that he SK'd a 13-year-old girl with autism. For the first time, she told NBC News that Diddy, Combs, and Jay-Z had raped her when she was 13 years old, but she requested we not identify her. What motivated you to speak up today? I believe I've been silent about what I've been through for long enough. And it's been difficult to remain silent, but it's a phase of my life that I'd like to end. You weren't afraid to be by yourself, but having autism is like feeling like you live in a shatterproof shell. The Jow ball, in addition to having autism, the globe is on fire and the fire is inside the ball with you, yet there is no way for you to escape. The lady claims that she had a head injury on the night of the 2000s BMAS. She claims that a friend drove her over 5 hours from Rochester, New York to Manhattan, and her lawyer gave NBC News the buddy's name, who has since passed away. The woman says she spoke to Coles' limo driver, who offered her a ride to an after party that stumbled upon Daddy's driver, who told me that I was exactly what did. He was looking for, what did you think when he said that to you? I thought it meant that I was just pretty. She went to a White House, she says, where she spoke to musicians Benji Madden and his brother. I'm talking to Benji Madden about his tattoo, because you know I have about his tattoo. That's the Last Supper, because I have a religious background. So it was just something to talk about at the after party. She says she had a drink that made her feel woozy. Then she says Combs and Potter took turns raping her. While a female celebrity YJ comes in, and at that point I was fighting, trying to get away from him, and he put his hand over my mouth and told me to stop it, cut the after. The alleged rape, she says she ran to a gas station where she called her father, who picked her up and drove her home. We wrote home in silence. He didn't ask me what happened. He didn't ask me what I did or where I was. It seems like the walls are closing in on some of Hollywood's most powerful players, from shocking revelations about Ashton Kutcher and Demi Moore's alleged involvement to Diddy's unraveling empire. The truth is finally coming to light as more victims and witnesses step forward. This scandal is shaping up to be one of the most explosive in Hollywood history. What do you think about these allegations? Are Ashton and Demi preparing to turn on Diddy to save themselves? Leave your comments below with your opinions.